Hi there. Last we talked, we had gotten TextWrangler downloaded and installed. So now I'm going to go over setup and configuration to get TextWrangler ready for your use in programming here at BYU Idaho and connecting it to the Linux lab. So with that in mind, let's get started. All right, so I no longer need this web browser here, so let's go ahead and quit that. And again, I no longer need to use the App Store. Okay, so TextWrangler is installed, so let's get it launched. I'm just going to do a search for it over in Spotlight. All right, so now you note that I'm using Snow Leopard. Everything I'm doing here will also work in Lion and Mountain Lion, so just for your information. So if you download it from the App Store, you won't get this message, but otherwise just click Open. I'm sure they're a pretty legit software company that won't destroy your computer. All right, so, it wants your attention already. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and click that and just say skip registration. And it needs to install a few other additional command line tools. If you can choose not to install them if you want. It won't really have that much of an impact, but I'm just going to put my password in here. And there we go. Okay, one other thing I'd also recommend doing is if you right-click here on this TextWrangler icon, you just go ahead and say keep in dock. And that way it'll always be in your dock and it's always there. So here we are in TextWrangler. The program doesn't have a lot of flashiness to it right now, but it can do C++, as you can see here from this language menu. Okay, so let's get this set up and ready for you to go. Okay, so the first thing we want you to do is go to the TextWrangler menu and click the setup item. Okay, now what we're interested in is actually just the bookmarks area right over here. And this will allow us to get everything set up for you to connect to the Linux lab. So let's go ahead and click this plus button. And we're just going to give this bookmark a name. And I'm just going to call it the BYUI Linux lab. Okay, we want the protocol to be SFTP. And now we need to tell it where the server is we want to connect to. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in the server's IP address. Okay, so I've typed in the address, and one very important thing you need to remember is to put in a colon, and after this colon you have to give it a number which tells TextWrangler what network communication port you want to talk to. Now the Linux lab administrators have set up the open port to be 215, so remember to put in that 215. And one other thing, this last number here, it doesn't have to be 229. You can do it any number between like 206 to 236 and any of those numbers in between. This is just what I happen to be using, and you can put any number in between those numbers. And again, don't forget this last number here, 215. Next thing you want to do is put your Linux lab username, and I'm just going to put mine in here. Okay, and then my password. Okay, now the remote path, what you want to put in here is /home. And then you want to put the first part of your BYUI email address. Everything before the @ sign. So for me, please don't spam my inbox. Okay, so the first part of your email address you're just going to put in right here, and then once you do that, it's going to take you right to your home directory, because if you don't do that, it's going to put you to the root of the file system, and then you have to navigate to your directory, which can be kind of annoying. So if you set this up just like so, again substituting the first part of your email address here, it'll take you right to your own home folder. Okay, so we're done here, so I'm just going to click OK, and we're going to close this window. Okay. So now that we've got all this set up, let's try connecting. So I'm just going to go to the File menu and go Open from FTP SFTP Server. And I'm going to go to this Bookmarks pop-up menu, and hey, look at that, the BYUI Linux Lab. We'll just go do that, and everything's filled in. Great. So we're just going to hit Connect. And this box will only come up the first time. Every other time it won't come up. Just click OK. And then, bam. So here's my home directory, and you can navigate it just like any other home folder. Okay, and so if I were to go up here and if I want to go back out, you have this little menu here to help you go back up one. Right? So I'm going to go navigate here, and I'm going to open up a text file here. Okay, so here we are. We've opened a file. It's already detected that it's a C++ file, so you don't have to do that for it. It can scan the text and see, oh, this is C++. Okay, and as you see over here on this left-hand pane here, all the documents that you have open are right here. Let's make this smaller a little bit, and it automatically colors your C++ text just like Emacs would do. All right, so let's now that we're basically logged in and got some stuff set up, there's a few more things I'd like to help you out in configuring. Okay, so let's go back to preferences. Okay, the first thing we want to do is configure a couple things to help you comply with the elements of style documents that you probably will have read by now and how you're supposed to write your code. Now, one of the things that it says in that document is that you're only supposed to write your code to be 80 characters long per line. So here's a tool that will help you do that. This page guide. So what I'm going to do here is set it to 79, and I recommend you set this to 79. The reason being is that if you have a line of code that's 79 characters long and then you hit the return or enter key, it's going to insert a carriage return character, and that will make that line 80 characters long. So if you made it 80 characters and then hit return, guess what? Your actual line of text there is actually 81 characters, and style checker will complain about that. And the other thing I'm going to do is this page guide contrast. I'm going to drag it all the way to the right. So now it's really dark and it's really obvious, if you look here, how far you can go. Right? So you can make it however bright or dark you want. I just recommend making it as dark as it can go because it makes it really obvious how far you can go. All right. So going through this here, I mean, a lot of these you can make your own, look through it and set it how you want, but these are some recommendations that I'm going to do here. Another thing I'm going to recommend that you do is turn on this auto expand tabs. At BYU Idaho, they don't like you using tab characters in your code. They prefer you use spaces. But what this will allow you to do is still allow you to use the tab key, but instead of inserting a tab character, it'll insert, in this case, 4 spaces right now. But we're going to want to change that to 3 because the elements of style document says they only want 3 spaces per tab. Okay, so we're done here. You can change the font to whatever you like later on. Here you get to configure all your keyboard stuff. One thing I like to point out is that this emulate Emacs key bindings. So if there's some stuff that you've already learned in Emacs and you're already used to, you can continue using those keyboard shortcuts and they will work just fine in this editor as well. One thing I would recommend that if you do that is to display the status window. The good thing about this is that your instructors, if they're helping you out on your code and they need to type on your computer, they already know their Emacs stuff most likely, so they can just continue using that and it'll still work. Another thing is keyboard shortcuts for your menus. You can go hog wild in configuring custom keyboard shortcuts. One I like to point out is the uncomment/comment selection menu item. If you have a large blocks of code that you need to comment, you can just select a block, do the command /, bam, it's commented. It's really a big time saver. Okay, text colors. You can change your text colors in TextWrangler if you don't like defaults and change it to whatever you want. In fact, there are places online where you can download pre-made color schemes and import them into your profile and use any one of those. Some of them are actually pretty cool. I'm actually using one right now for my coding. So let's see. And I think that pretty much covers everything in preferences. So there we go. A couple of things I like to point out though is, let's see, let me just make an edit here. Let's see. Cout. Hello. Okay, so since I've made that edit, you'll notice that this is darkened, and you also notice that there's a dot in your window. So they say, hey, I need to save this. So like before, you can just go ahead and click and do save, and it will save it on the Linux server. It's not going to be on your machine, so you can just save it directly. That's a big thing about the nice thing about this editor, so that you can actually do work on your machine, but save remotely. You don't have to like save it on your machine and then copy it over back to the Linux server. You can just save in place, which I find really, really handy. Another thing about this editor I like to point out, which I like to tell people about really early because it can save them a lot of time as they code, is that when you start learning about different functions in C++, your programs are going to start getting kind of big. And normally, in Emacs, you have to, up arrow, down arrow to go to those various places in your code, which can take some time. Of course, there are ways to shorten that in Emacs too. I'm not saying Emacs is bad. It's actually a great editor. But there's this menu here that you can skip around to different functions in your code. And that will allow you to go around your code really, really quickly. So that pretty much covers everything I wanted to go over with you. All I can say is that if you want more information on how to use TextWrangler, there is a user manual and online help that you can refer to. But hopefully what I've shown you here will be enough to get you up and running and going productively programming here in your computer science classes at BYU Idaho. I just want to wish you good luck. Programming can be difficult, yes, but it's also can be a lot of fun and very rewarding. And I've definitely enjoyed it so far, and hope you like it and consider making it a career. Again, there's TextWrangler, and hope to see you around in the Linux lab.